to be afraid of the work that they feel they were put on this earth to do, and what is it specifically about creative ventures that seems to make us really nervous about each other's mental health in a way that other careers kind of don't do, like my dad, for example, was a chemical engineer, and I don't recall once in his 40 years of chemical engineering anybody asking him if he was afraid to be a chemical engineer. It just didn't come, like, got chemical engineering block, John, how's it go? And it just didn't come up like that, But to be fair, right, chemical engineers as a group, haven't really earned a reputation over the centuries for being alcoholic manic depressives. And we writers, we kind of do have that reputation, and not just writers, but creative people across all genres, it seems, have this reputation for being enormously mentally unstable. And all you have to do is look at the very grim death count in the 20th century alone of really magnificent creative minds who died young and often at their own hands, and even the ones who didn't literally commit suicide seem to be really undone by their gifts.
Done.
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Henry Haight. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, and today's topic is going to be something that could be a little serious, and that is artistry and mental health. And I don't want to brush this up like, on the torch of the trope of the tortured artist, but there seems to be this mystique around mental health and creativity. Throughout society, our history, our cultural history, has been inundated with artists, writers, musicians that all somehow struggled with mental health, and myself included. And I will be honest, you're looking at someone who's been sectioned twice. Now, sectioned is an English term for institutionalized. Once I was self-admitted, I admitted myself, and the second time I was taken by police. And I'll go into my story later, but essentially, what do you look at when you see a Vincent van Gogh? What do you see when you look at a painting by Edward Munch? And the Edward Munch painting, The Scream, is notorious for the pinnacle of mental health and art. And Edward Munch came up with this image when he was walking along, seeing a blood red sky, and he had this infinite internal scream inside him, and virtually he honed that onto a canvas. There's a story of Vincent van Gogh never selling a painting throughout his career, and all of a sudden he chopped off his ear. And virtually he struggled with a lot of, manic depression and things like that. The photographer Diane Arbus, who would photograph socialites and the marginalized, drag queens, like delinquent children, she committed suicide. And the whole thing is that I said in one of my other talks that, to be an artist, to have the creative output, isn't a poetic curse, but at the same time, I think people who struggle with mental health issues, especially if it runs in your family, and in my family it does. On my dad's side, it is substance abuse and drinking, where my mom has been food and mental health. Anxieties and stuff like that, and even my mother was institutionalized. When I was 17, I had just come out, and 2 months later, I didn't put her in the hospital, but she admitted herself, and I had just come out, and there were a lot of things going on in my family, and I think I was the last straw because I was going to give her any grandchildren, as she said. And that was a hard one to take for me. But in creativity, in creating artwork, we're told that we should always put our work or our feelings into our work. And, Diane Arbus virtually photographed people that were on the fringe of society or not considered, the standard beauty. But she showed a humanity, and virtually my favorite photos that she did are of the circus freaks. And when I was a little boy, I always wanted to run away and join the circus. And little did I know that most of those people that worked in the circus back in the day, in like the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, were all alcoholics, drug addicts, and manic depressives. And but in my mind, to a little boy, all that pageantry was a different world, an insular world that took me away from whatever I was feeling. Anyways, but with works like Edward Munch's Scream, Vincent van Gogh's, Sunflowers and stuff, you get a feeling of what is going on in these people's minds. Mental health can take on many forms, and when you go to a dark place, and I've noticed a lot of people say I'm in a dark place or I was in a dark place, but when you start to swing towards the other side of the pendulum to the negative aspects of the id or the human psyche, it can be very, very debilitating, and virtually it can even lead to death. And I know, and the whole thing is that I'm not saying this as a cop-out, but I don't think creativity gives you the free license to be mad. But I do believe that life gets in the way, and now that we are inundated with so many things, social media, the offer of consumption, that we are herded to actually think particular ways through social media and television, adverts, wherever we go, and we're inundated with brands and things that can be virtually overwhelming, and our brains aren't wired for this type of stimuli. And what I feel is that there can be this romanticism about, the tortured artist or the artist with mania, people who've had notorious problems with, alcoholism, like, Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko with mental illness, as well as Yayoi Kusama, where she has shown with her dot paintings that those are what her mental psychosis would look like, that she put that in the world. The infinite rooms show to me a peace of mind and virtually an infinite possibility. But it's also her saving grace that actually she needs to create every day, and across the street from her convalescent home, that she actually has a studio where she paints daily, because that is her release. I don't think that we should hold these things into account to where we romanticize them, but I do believe that whatever we are feeling within ourselves and within our psyche, we should actually try to put out into the world, just like Edward Munch did. I'm not suggesting people go cutting off their ear, but in some ways, find a spot for 5 or 10 minutes, sit by yourself, acknowledge whatever is going on, accept it, and say, okay, I can move from this. The heart will heal. The brain is always going to be having curveballs, but it's our right to problem solve and find a way out of these things, and not in the way that is the easy way out, because creating art is hard, and virtually good art, visual art is hard. And that is the one thing that I've virtually promised myself that I would continue to do. I would give my life to it, because one, it's a passion of mine. It is something that I am compelled to do. I've tried to hold down regular jobs, but you can't do it. So to those that are struggling, seek help, talk about this. And the great thing about now is that it is more prevalent for people to talk about their mental health issues, and almost releasing it, and purging it, so that they're leaving it out to the universe, so that it doesn't fester and poison them like a toxic gas inside them where they can spiral. I sought help, and at the time, I was in a point where I wanted for nothing, and virtually I had a successful business. I was, getting brand deals and collaborations, yada, yada, yada. And all of a sudden I had a court case where a millennial said she was trying to protect her brand. And it affected my business, but I was blindsided by this. And having to create, I did the worst thing possible. I took the easy way out, and I had a drug relapse because I just, didn't want to think about it. And I was escaping. And drug addiction is like Groundhog Day with your worst enemy. And I was on little sleep. I was trying to be creative. I even created an artwork. An artwork created under duress with 2 art dealers on my ass and a court case. And it was based on Hunter S. Thompson for a Hunter S. Thompson group show. And the weird thing was that he was a notorious drug taker and hellraiser. And one of my favorite quotes of his is, "I can't very well go fucking searching, the American dream in a goddamn Volkswagen," when he asked Rolling Stone for a Cadillac. Props. But I gotta give it, sometimes, crazy, witty, depressed people can be very, very witty. But anyhow, it was an awful time, and my marriage fell apart. I was hemorrhaging money. I was just like, my life saving was eaten up by legal costs and everything. And I felt in my gut I was trying to do what was right. And by doing this court case, and everything fell apart. My life fell apart. I fell apart because I let it. I didn't take control of it and say, okay, and that's my fault. However, I did take control when I really tried to work my way out of this, and virtually trying to be honest with yourself and accepting any flaws, and virtually trying to problem solve or sharing with your friends, where I became quite insular. And that's the thing about substance abuse issues. You tend to be alone. Right now I have a father who drinks himself silly because he's unhappy, and no matter me being here trying to look after him, he's hell-bent on trying to just make things worse. And it's heartbreaking because I can't do anything about it. I can't save him. I can vocalize what I'm thinking. And the thing about an addict is that an addict has to want to save themselves. And I chose to live. Almost a year later, I was commissioned to do an artwork for the Phoenix HIV Trust for the U equals U campaign. If I committed suicide, I wouldn't be here to do it. I'm not proud of it. But when I choose to create, I choose to tell a story to kind of find a release. And I feel that however dark, however scary, there are artists who virtually H.R. Giger. Although some of his stuff can be quite dark and fantastical, it's a release. It's another world. Yayoi Kusama makes these rooms to virtually release the anxiety, the anguish. Frida Kahlo was very vocal in her works about her pain, her suffering. And she put it out there for the world to see, to share, to relate. And that's what you should do as well. You should show what was inside, release it. Because then you know you've accomplished something. You've put your heart out on a canvas to create something that someone might relate to and say, I feel the exact same thing. I don't know if anyone's going to want to kidnap your painting and hold it for ransom, like, the Scream. But especially now in social media, we do things for clicks, likes, and all that. And, trigger warnings and this, that, and the other thing. But the thing that I find the most amazing is that we share these experiences. We want to have this shared experience, and that makes us relatable to another individual. And art and music and writing is a way to relate and to compel what we think and how we see the world and connect with other people. And that's how you should use your voice. It's okay to say, I'm a little crazy, I'm in a downturn. They say that creative people tend to have a little bit more schizophrenia or manic depressive or bipolarism than, just mental health issues. When I went to therapy to get off my drug addiction, I tried 12 steps when I was younger, and AA and NA only have a 33% success rate. But it's the individual who wants to say, you know what, fuck this, I'm going to be the success rate. And I had to tell myself, Henry, you have to fucking stop taking drugs and being a fucking dipshit and wasting away, because I had a fear. What if I'm good? What if I'm too good? What if I fail? What if? And no one loves me, no one likes me, this, and all those things went through my head. And the first thing I had to do was go, you know what? You're an alright guy. Save yourself. So I'm going to tell you right now, you're an alright person, and you should do something kind to yourself. Be gentle to yourself. Take yourself out for ice cream. Hug a tree. I don't know, just play with a puppy. There are saving graces within the world. It's up to us if we want to recognize them and enhance and influence that creativity, to purge and put it out there into the world. Not everyone can be, a Picasso or a Mark Rothko or a Frida Kahlo, but we can sure as hell damn try. And that's the truth. All we can do is try. And that's what I'm telling you, is that, there's another side to the mental health thing. But the first thing is take the first step to want to get help. And the second one is to put your efforts into your work of what you're feeling. Because I'm sure as hell, almost positive, once you put what you're feeling, no matter how crazy, no matter how dark, no matter how sinister, you will feel better because you've accomplished something. So with that, I'm just going to say, be good to yourself, be kind to yourself. Talk to a friend, talk to a doctor. There are programs that can help you find the right channels to clear mental health and clarity for yourself, because you deserve it. So, and I'm here as living proof. So please be good to yourself and keep creating. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know what you feel in the comments. Take care.